Welcome to Uncle's channel. Thanks for watching today. Let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. And today we're going to go by a game that is known by many different titles, but the title we're going to call it is Gradius II, The Return of the Hero. Because in the US, when it was released in black and white on the original Game Boy, it was just called Gradius, The Interstellar Assault. In Japan, it was called the Nemesis 2. And then in Europe, it was called Nemesis 2, Return of the Hero. And then when it put out on Game Boy Color, it was called Gradius II, Return of the Hero. So like, it goes by many different names, but it's basically a Gradius game done in a pretty much fantastic fashion here for the Game Boy. And it's going to be on Game Boy Color if you play it on the Konami Collection number 4. And that's the version we're going to play it as. But there is a black and white version that you can also go through, which is on its own individual cartridge. But like I said, it plays just like any other Gradius game. You have your power-ups, you have your spaceship, the Vic Viper coming through here. And one thing that's unique about this one that I don't think is present in the other Gradius games is that it's just simply one giant continuous level, and you pretty much just go from one spot to the other. There's not like any break or distinction amongst the levels or like a closeout. It's just simply like one giant story that you're going to be going through here. And honestly, it is a fantastic game. But let's go ahead and dive into Gradius II, Return of the Hero. Now, this particular game did get moved up in the queue a little bit because Sandro Sensei requested one of my earlier videos actually called it by the title of Nemesis 2, which threw me off a little bit because I'd never heard of Nemesis. But like I said, it's more known to us as Gradius, but naturally moved up in the queue. If there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of that game in the comments down below. And just like Gradius or Nemesis 2, we'll move it right on up. But let's go ahead and get into the actual game. Now, I'd like to start the videos off looking at the box art for the game first. And the box art for Gradius 2 is going to, we're going to look at the North American version here. It's going to say the Interstellar Assault, but all the covers are basically the same regardless of your region. It's got the Vic Viper there and an awesome looking outer space scene. One of the core motherships or one of the core enemies firing at you from behind. And honestly, like, I adore this picture. If I could get this as like a poster to hang inside the wall, like frame it, I mean, I definitely would, because it like has an exact 80s sci-fi aesthetic that I really just love so much. It does say 2 meg blaster down at the bottom because evidently that was a big thing to have a game that had 2 megabytes on it. I don't know enough about like the megabyte differences and whatnot to say like how impressive that is, but evidently it was impressive enough to actually stick it on the cover of the box. But as far as like describing the game, you know from looking at the cover, it's a outer space shooter, and I love the cover. Now, when you load the actual game up here, you got a very basic title screen, no flashy animations or backgrounds or like a little story. Really nothing too special about the title screen. And there are a few different things you can select on the menu here. You can just simply start the game, you can do practice mode, or you can do the options. I did look at options first, and I just sort of left everything pretty much default, because I didn't really want to mess with like the control scheme or the difficulty or anything like that. So I just simply left it as it was already set up. But then from there, I did go into practice mode, and practice mode is pretty cool, because like during the game, you can like choose different weapons that you're going to use, and like different upgrades you can have for it. And like sometimes you don't want to like dedicate fully into a weapon category if you don't really know what that weapon's going to do. And so like practice mode allows you to choose any weapon inside the game, any upgrade part of that weapon, and just sort of like try it out in like a trial level here to see if you actually enjoy that weapon. So if you know you want to invest points into it in the actual game. And completely unnecessary game mode, but a pretty cool addition to the game just to sort of give players, I don't know, a little extra information. Now when I start the actual game up here, you get to choose which weapon you want to start as, and you can choose missile, double, or laser. And missile is going to be like a basic weapon. Also going to have like the ability to sort of shoot up or down from your spaceship. Double has the ability to shoot, of course, out in front of your spaceship and behind your spaceship. And then laser is just simply a very powerful laser weapon that you can use. And I'm sort of like a toss-up between laser and double, but I ended up going with double because I like the idea of being able to shoot behind me. And for these Gradius games or these Life Force type games, sometimes shooting enemies from behind allows you to basically destroy them to get some upgrades. So I did go with the double mechanic here, or the double weapon, just pretty much purely for that behind the shot weapon. Now, after you choose your weapon, the game starts up here, and it doesn't like give a lot of background for the story, but it's something to the effect of you are Vic Viper, your little spaceship here. You have your 2 allied motherships beside you, and another giant mothership comes up and destroys your 2 motherships, and then begins to chase you through like an asteroid field or like a cavern along the surface of this planet here. And that's how the game starts off. You're just simply running away from this giant spaceship that's coming after you, and it's a pretty cool little chase scene to start off. And eventually, you sort of slide through a very narrow passage, and the larger ship cannot come after you and sort of crashes into the side of it. And honestly, it's a good intro as far as like just simply getting the mechanics of like how the game's going to play, but also a cool little chase scene. And so I don't know, I'm a fan of it. And at this point, it does transition over from being a chase scene to be a normal Gradius shooter game or space shooter. And you have your little weapon here, and you're basically traveling through like ancient ruins on this planet. And I don't know the lore behind it, but like it's a really cool aesthetic for this planet here. You're fighting off these mech enemies, these fireworms, these aliens, and there's all these ruins around scattered about. And you're like, what happened on this planet? Like what alien civilization was here? And I don't know, like I'm sure there's like a lore out there. There's probably been like graphic novels or like little anime miniseries on Gradius. And I may end up checking them out after this particular video because like the storyline for this really does have me intrigued here. But as you're traveling through here, obviously, you know, one button shoots and the other button allows you to basically choose a power up. And at the very bottom of the screen, you have different letters scattered across here. You have S, M, D, L, O, and F. And each one of those stands for a different thing we're going to go through in just a second. But essentially, when you destroy enemies, sometimes you get like a little power up block. And when you get the power up block, it then basically moves the bar one item over on your little letters down to bottom. And so if you just simply get one power up, it goes to S. And if you choose S, you get a little speed up on your ship. But let's say you don't want to go faster and you want to hold off to get a more powerful upgrade, you just simply collect two of the little power up blocks and then you can go up to M and you can upgrade your missile, or you can swap over to the missile weapon. Or if you want to go to D, that's for the double weapon, which is what I have. And when you upgrade that, that's when you'll get the ability to shoot in front of your spaceship and behind your spaceship. If you wait to get to L, which is obviously the most powerful weapon, you get the laser weapon. If you do it twice, then you're going to get the upgrade on the laser. But my favorite one here is if you wait to go to option, you can choose option and you get like a little sidekick who shoots out the exact same weapon that you have. And I adore having the sidekick. I know it's in the regular Gradius games, it's in the Life Force or the Salamander games as well. And there's just something about having the little sidekick that I just absolutely adore here. And you can do that twice, so you can get two sidekicks. If you wait to get all the way to the F, you get a little force field, and that's represented by like two little red dots out in front of your spaceship, and you can take a few extra hits before you actually die. And so like my main goal for like every single time I had the ability to upgrade, I first upgrade my weapon, then I go for the option for my sidekicks, and then I go for the force field, and after I have all that, sometimes I'll go for the speed, but that's sometimes random. Sometimes I like save it up for another force field in case that one loses. But regardless, this is the mechanics of the game, and it's what separates it from like a normal side-scrolling shooter or like a space shooter is having to like figure out how you want to upgrade your ship, and just simply having the ability to upgrade your ship is a ton of fun. Now, eventually you're going to go through the ruins. You're going to get to more of an organic looking area, almost something more out of the game Salamander or Life Force, even though this is still Gradius here. And the enemies are going to change completely. Now you have more like bees or insects or trilobites, and even one part like where shrimp are jumping out and trying to attack you. I guess crustaceans would be the best way to describe the overall enemies of this particular level, minus the bees. But everything else looks like a crustacean in the level. And then you're going to finally get to the boss of the arena. And like all the bosses are pretty top notch in the game. But this particular boss is going to have two heads, and they're both going to be able to shoot little projectiles out at you. And you attack the bottom head first, and once that one's destroyed, the top head comes out like a Monterey eel here, and journeys its way down to the bottom part, and then of course can shoot at you and also sort of come out and try to attack you that way as well. It's not necessarily like a difficult boss, but it's just a really cool aesthetic, and I like sort of the mix up of different phases and different parts that you can attack. And I do think this is probably a little bit easier on the Game Boy Color because you can actually see like where you're supposed to attack based on the different color of the heads here, even though you could probably figure it out pretty easily on the black and white. But anyway, I like it better in color, but a really cool looking boss, and it sort of sets the stage for like all the bosses in the game. Now after you defeat him, of course the spaceship keeps going. Like I said, there are no level distinctions in this game, even though that's technically the close of what you call level 1. After you continue going here, like two little force field robots or force field spaceships come around and basically paralyze your spaceship and abduct you into a mothership here. And when they abduct you, they strip you of all of your upgrades. So now you're back down to just simply being the regular old Vic Viper spaceship. And this level here is less interesting to me because it's less organic and less, alien planet, and just simply more of a, I don't know, tech robot spaceship level. And as you're journeying through here, most of them are like more mech or like turrets or just simply basic machine enemies here. And upgrades are pretty easy to get back because they're all hidden in these little bubble, I guess, holding cells here. And when you destroy those, you get your upgrades back and you can upgrade your spaceship pretty quickly. I will say that in this game, like if you lose your upgrades or you crash your ship and you die, you get your upgrades back pretty darn fast, and so that's a definite plus here. But eventually you are going to get to the boss of this mothership, and this boss is actually pretty tough to me because you have these two little turrets up at the top and at the bottom, and those aren't too bad to take out if that was like the main core mechanic here. But you also have these like little force fields or these little electrical beams that are going to come down from top to bottom. But while all that's going on, there's also like a magnetic core that you have to worry about that's behind the weak spot of the enemy, and as it starts spinning, it's going to start pulling you closer and closer to the core, trying to basically get you hit by the little electric fields here, or like the little turrets, projectiles that are coming down at you. And so like it's a little bit hard to like sort of balance all different things that are happening at once. But if you can just simply take the turrets out like from the get-go, and then all you have to worry about is the electric fields here as well as the magnetic pull, he's not too bad. But it did take me a few tries to actually get sort of a gameplay or a strategy down in order to get the core taken out. Now, after you destroy him, you get a pretty cool little cutscene. Actually, one of the only cutscenes in the entire game here, and shows the mothership blowing up and your spaceship, the Vic Viper, flying out from it, and you're heading off into your next planet, which will obviously be the next level, even though it doesn't say level 3. Now, this particular level is going to be like a desert planet or a desert world that you're going to. There are some normal robot enemies throughout here, but my favorite part is the robot enemies get behind these rocks and they begin to sort of push the rocks at you like a projectile. I don't know, it's just sort of like a cool little effect here. Now, you do get to one part where a ton of smaller enemies are beginning to jump out and try to attack you, but they're very weak, and there are so many of them that you're able to get a ton of upgrades from it. And the game is purposely doing this, so if your spaceship's not upgraded appropriately at this point before the next boss, the game is saying here are a ton of items or a ton of upgrade opportunities to get your spaceship exactly how you want it before you go in here. Now, when you finally do get to the boss, it's probably my favorite boss in the entire game here. It's like a giant crustacean or a giant crab here that shoots out 4 lasers, can shoot out little projectile asteroids or little rocks out the top of its head, tries to ram at you, try to attack you, and you have to shoot its center core here and sort of dodge all of that that's happening. And not only is it a fun boss battle to go through, but I just love the aesthetics to it, and I could definitely see a old 80s sci-fi poster featuring this giant crab on it. Actually, is that on the cover of Gradius? Hang on one second. That might actually be what's on the cover of the game. I'm not sure, but I just love the aesthetics of this boss, and it would look really cool, up close in a sci-fi poster, and I don't know, I just love the boss. And even the death scene, when you kill him off, he sort of disintegrates and falls back down through the atmosphere and is slowly falling apart as he goes, I don't know, it's just a really, really spectacular scene here, and I'm just impressed with this particular area of the game. And at this point, your spaceship does begin to descend as well. Obviously not fast enough to disintegrate like the boss here, but you eventually get down to a planet. It's going to be sort of a wooded base, and what I mean by that is a bunch of trees. It's sort of a naturalistic looking planet, but you also have these mechs as well as their little military bases where they come out of, they try to shoot at you. It's a fun little level here. Once again, continuing on making every planet a little bit different than the last one before it. And there are some normal flying enemies as well. And the boss here is probably one of the more tough bosses, but not necessarily my favorite boss in the game. You basically have 4 giant missile launchers that are going to continue to shoot missiles at you until you destroy those particular little turrets. You have little mechs that are going to come out on the bottom of the screen from their base to try to attack you as well. And even when you try to shoot into the core, there's going to be a little energy ball that comes out. If you hit that, it blows up and shoots little energy balls off in a lot of different directions. This boss here is there's just a lot to keep up with and a lot to dodge. And even when you destroy the missile turrets or whatnot, you still have to worry about the mechs and the exploding ball. And so there's just a lot to I guess conquer in this particular boss, and it's going to take you a few tries to probably take him out. Now, once he blows up, you go through the little narrow corridor here where you blew the core out, and you go into the next little robot base here. And like I said earlier, the ones that are focused inside a military base or a mothership, they're not really my favorite levels because there's no cool organic or natural aesthetics to go along with it. But it's going to be mostly cannon enemies, robot enemies, sort of an overload of bullet hell at a few different points. And there's even one spot unkillable orange enemies. Look sort of a seesaw to a degree. They're coming at you. I'm not sure what's going on with that, or if I had a better weapon upgrade, I possibly could have taken them out. I didn't really focus on anything except for the double weapon pretty much the entire time, just simply my favorite weapon to have. But maybe the lasers could have taken it out. But there are a few little tight places that have to dodge through, and it is pretty on par with most of the Gradius games out there. And then you get to the second to final boss, which is basically a giant robot that shoots out this massive laser across the center of the screen, and it has these little bouncing balls that are sort of go cross paths that are trying to hit you as they're bouncing across the level. And this is pretty darn tough if you just simply try to fight it normally, because there's a lot of different things you're trying to avoid all at once. However, I figured out if you have the options as far as your little assistants, and you position yourself right here on the screen, your assistants are below you, and nothing can hit you. You're completely invincible to everything that's coming at you, and one of your assistants will continue to shoot one single shot into the core of the boss, and you can beat this entire battle without even moving at all once you get to this particular position. Now, I'm well aware this is not how you're supposed to play the game, but hey, the game allowed for a cheese method, and if you watch my channel much, you know I love to find little cheeses in games, and this was right down my alley, and I was happy to take this boss out in this particular way. Now, once he's destroyed, you once again go through the part where the core was at, and you're going to basically watch the entire base sort of implode upon you and sort of fall apart as you're trying to get out of here. And when you get out of it, there's basically a little escape pod in front of you, which is obviously the core enemy in the game. He's trying to flee away from the base, get away from here, and at first he just drops little bombs, trying to distract you or try to stop you from chasing him. But eventually you get to the final showdown between you and the final little orange escape pod here. And I'm not going to say it's a disappointing boss battle, but it is a really easy boss boss battle. But at the same time, you have to think about it, like you are literally fighting the last ditch effort, the escape pod of the core enemy in the game. And so like he's not going to be the most powerful. It is sort of a pitiful ending because he's in pitiful shape at this point. You've already fought the more powerful boss as it is before him. And basically you just have to avoid these giant vertical attacks that are coming at you, these little walls he shoots out, and these little missiles. And it's a really, really easy boss fight. And once you take him out, the credits begin to play and basically shows your spaceship across the top of the screen, sort of journeying through. And eventually it says the end or just simply end. And you get all the credits that are coming up as on the screen as well. And it's also during the credits that you have the absolute best song in the entire game. Like the soundtrack itself is pretty good. It's an enjoyable soundtrack. But this song here, fantastic. And I adore the song. I'll let a little bit of it play right here over the credits. Like I said, fantastic song, but let's talk about the game as like an overall here, because I really did enjoy Gradius II here, the Interstellar Assault or the Return of the Hero, whichever title you want to go with. Like, I love the gameplay mechanics of it. Like, I've always enjoyed like Life Force growing up on the NES. I never like played Gradius a whole lot, but it's a very similar type game. But I always liked Life Force a little bit better because it's like a more organic shooter as far as like the enemies you encounter. And I felt like this game was a good balance between the organic side and the mechanical side as far as like sort of a in-between of those two games. I don't like it as much as I do like Life Force because I definitely enjoy the organic side, but I like sort of that techno-organic that this game is going with. And so the gameplay is top-notch, the aesthetics are top-notch. I think the color version is a really good way to go about it, but even the black and white version is still going to have the same aesthetics as you go. And so like the game nails the graphics, the feeling, the atmosphere, and even the gameplay. I love being able to upgrade your spaceship and you have like your little assistants, and I feel like it's done very smoothly by having that little meter at the bottom of the screen. Like if you like Gradius and you like Salamander or Life Force, this game is definitely 100% down your alley. It's very well polished and there's pretty much no complaints on this game at all, except for the fact it could be a little bit longer maybe. I don't know, that's a distant complaint. I'm gonna give the game a 9 out of 10 because like I truly do enjoy this style of game. Great recommendation. If you haven't played it, definitely give it a go, and I'm looking forward to going back and playing more of the other Gradius games because I'm sort of getting back into the series again at this point. It really did revive an interest for me. But if there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner or later, let me know the name of that game in the comments down below, and just like Gradius, I'll get it covered as soon as I can. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, check my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.